mean when they come out, no DEI? We got a program for you. Thank you, Dr. Karen McRae, for joining us today.
Oh, Barbara, it's my pleasure. I enjoy it. Like Dianne said, every week we gather because there's so much going on. So it's my pleasure.
My. So, Daryl, you want to kick us off? I mean, we know that one of the ugliest things happening here has been this attack on DEI, and that it's had real consequences, people. Folks are out of their jobs. Folks who have products that they used to sell to the federal government can't do it anymore. People who were selling products and being featured at stores that have now abandoned DEI are not able to have that income. People who were trying to get scholarships, people who were trying to, advance their education, advance their careers, have been really negatively impacted. And this whole cruelty of attacking DEI is having massive impact on all of us. So I want to start, with some questions for our powerful guests. I want to ask the question that I'm sure is on so many people's minds, and it's, why do you think, of all the things in the world this Trump administration can be doing, with all the crises in this world, with all the issues to be addressed, why do you think this Trump administration has made anti-DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, its top priority? Dianne.
Well, because it is. I don't think this is complicated. I think any and all things black, all lines lead to racism, and they have decided that when I say they, it's MAGA, it's him individually. He campaigned on it. He was elected because of it, and anyone who says they didn't know is lying. They are convinced that all things black are bad, and they believe he is the one who's going to deliver them from black people. So every policy that they have is designed to enforce and implement that plan, and that is to make us invisible, to make us leave. All of those things are happening. You talked about the SBA, Barbara. That's been creeping, right? That's been creeping. The lawsuits. First, the lawsuits that were forum shopped in the last several years to be in jurisdictions where his first term judges sit. The denying the set-aside programs, the MBE programs during COVID. People forget. This isn't new. This is the culmination of the whole reason that he came to be. And they're serious about it at every level, and they're going to kill us all in the process, because you can't harm black people only without harming everybody else. And I think that they're figuring that out, too, but still don't know what to do about it.
It's vicious, and I want to point out that all of those black people, Karen, Brian Donald, Tim Scott, all these black folks that were hitting the pavement and and advocating for Trump. Isn't it fascinating that not one of them got a cabinet position? Not one of them is a secretary. Not one of them is an undersecretary. Not one of them got even a special advisor position to the president. Come on. I mean, it's the anti-blackness. It's the anti-people of color. It's the anti-movement. That's strong. I mean, they got out there and they sweated, sold out their souls, did everything, and they got zero. Did you hear me? Zero for it. Woo! Come on now, Karen.
That's true.
What do you got to say? Go ahead, Daryl.
I am so tired of these handkerchief-wearing men who, will bow to the ring, kiss the ring, bow to the feet up at the expense of their own soul. It doesn't make any sense. Not only did they not get a call, Barbara, they didn't even get an interview. There was not a position available for them to even constitute themselves for consideration. It is ridiculous. The other thing, too.
Go ahead.
The other thing if I could add, that I think as well to Diane's point, that they're still upset about the 2 terms of President Barack Obama. It has literally changed their entire thinking so that, when he won the first time, that was white man's last stand. Then he lost, so they cheated to get 2024. So here they are again. Oh, we're going to make sure that we counteract the browning of America and allow white South Africans to come in with open doors so that we can ensure that we have the opportunity to have white babies born all over the place and make sure that white women have to have babies all over the place so that we can increase our numbers so that we can counteract the browning of America, not understanding that they're too late. 2030 is coming, whether they like it or not, and the browning of America will take place, independent of their racism, independent of their stupidity, independent of them trying to knock out DEI programs that disproportionately impact white women more than any other black person that walks the face of America. So no, they don't know. They don't know what they're doing, and the ignorance. Since when do you have a president that hates his own people?
Right.
The federal workforce works at his pleasure. They're here to serve us, the American people. He's telling us in our faces, he doesn't care about us. This is all about him. He wants everyone to serve him. That's why he's consolidating resources, illegally going after contracts that have already been administered, so that anything that happens comes out of the White House. So he's setting himself up as a king.
Well, fortunately, he's not king.
Dr. McRae, come on now. Little Elon X, that was in the White House, told y'all that man was not the president. You didn't hear him? He told you that was not the president. He looked him in the eye and said, "You are not the president.
Get out of here." Shut his mouth. I mean, a little monster. I can listen, folks. Elon Musk is on his 13th child, folks. He's only been married once. Got 4 different. I'm not even going to say it. Got 4 different mothers of his children, and has the nerve to be standing up there in front of this, national. This nationalist Christian movement. Are you serious? Folks, I just, really want to point out these contradictions. And Karen, thanks for going into it. Now, last week, Elon Musk, folks, gave a speech, and I recommend that you go and listen to his speech. It's going to be excruciating, but it's not, terribly long. But he gave a speech to the World Government Summit that was being held in Dubai, attended by all kinds of governments. And he advocated during that speech not only for every nation to follow the U.S. example of getting rid of its federal regulatory or central regulatory schematics, meaning that that you can't hold corporations accountable for pollution, for not having proper wages, for having child labor, all these things. That he was advocating that that you get rid of the whole central regulatory scheme, but he also took the time to advocate for the elimination of DEI programs worldwide. Once again, come on now, Diane, why is this his top priority?
South Africa. Remember, and you have to add what happened. The policies that were introduced last week relative to the last 2 weeks. The victims now, the new victims, the new international victims are white Afrikaners. And so,
Lord Jesus,
who have been victimized by the fall of apartheid. And so this, for him, his mission is consistent with his upbringing, with who he is, with what he is. I think that what we have to really begin to shift our focus to is understanding that the reason why there has not been the kind of level of hue and cry at every new outrageous announcement is because people support this. Mm-hmm. People support this. People support this notion that Black people, LGBTQ people, right, Latinos have become the scourge and a burden to America. And if you look, I mean, what's happened with the farmers, every single aspect of our lives is being impacted by this. You know, the health, the purge at CDC. That is scary to me.
Yes.
But seem to be moving along.
They don't care about preventable diseases, right? They don't even care about making sure that we but you got to be clear, everybody. I just want to point out something really strong, is that when you say the word racism, please understand, people, that the ultimate goal of any racism is genocide. And exactly. When people say, oh, my God, eliminating USAID is going to mean that people are going to die, brown and Black people are going to die in Africa and Asia, do you think he cares? Do you think that wasn't the goal? I mean, come on. I want people to be very clear that there is purpose.
This is the goal.
Not accident, right?
The purpose. And Barbara, you mentioned Africa. Anybody who thinks that the fact that we're having the biggest outbreak of Ebola isn't going to impact us is crazy.
Well, it reminds me. It reminds me of the fact that when they finally went back and looked at the COVID, quote, spread, the COVID infection in the United States, and remember Trump had been yelling that it was all China. It turned out that the majority of that infection came through Europe because Europeans were visiting all over the world and picked up the infection and bringing it in through the New York border. And people just didn't think white people. They were only thinking Asians. That's how racism is so dangerous, people. It really can allow us to overlook, the realities of what's going on. Karen, how is this attack on DEI affecting people and the general public? What are you seeing from people How are they being impacted by this attack on DEI and all these other bizarre policies of this so-called Trump administration?
I think it's affecting a lot of nonprofits. It's similar to CBM that were very heavily grant-dependent. Grants have been paused. Even grants that have already been administered in the last fiscal year, they're not paying on them. So even the funding that you cannot draw down that you were allocated, they're having a detrimental impact to a number of nonprofits and the services that are provided by those nonprofits. It's really a very precarious situation. But the other thing, if I might add to the point before, and in Trump's first term, he called African countries S-hole countries, so he doesn't care.
Sure did. He sure did.
He's now going back to what he thinks of those countries in the first place. The other thing that what scares me or I'm more concerned about is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and his confirmation hearing saying that Black people are alluding to the fact that Black people didn't need the same vaccine as white people because of antibodies in our system and our genetic makeup. That's a problem. And with him as HHS secretary, that further goes towards the combating or their agenda implementation for further genocide of African Americans that are here. And it's not just Elon Musk. It's Peter Thiel who put J.D. Vance in place. It's the resurgence of white South Africans all over the place. And I'm like, I understand